Hey, did you know that 90% of men are addicted because they don't know about these three biggest myths around porn and masturbation? What's up, man? In this video, I'm gonna show you the whole blueprint to quit porn once and for all through uncovering these three biggest myths. And believe me, I have yet never came across someone who knows about one of those myths and who still watches porn. I have myself been studying porn addiction for 7 years. I have watched every single YouTube videos and read plenty of books and articles on this topic. They have good advice, but most of the time they don't go straight for the root cause, and that root cause is what we will attack. I see so many guys are unaware of it. They go off from porn for a few weeks and get back to it, just like I did in the past, and we get back into this cycle of shame and guilt. You may think that, being aware of your urges, keeping yourself busy, taking cold showers, being around other people, trying to saying to yourself that it's not worth it, or using porn blockers, or that you need to just a bit more disciplined or be in a relationship with a woman. All of these things, they only work for a short amount of time. It just becomes a constant battle of strong urges, and then eventually you give in to your urges. But once you get to the root cause, the urge just completely disappears. Now I want you to imagine that you are just trying to get rid of a tree in your backyard that is getting bigger and bigger, and you are just trying to cut down a tree. Whereas all of these techniques, like being around other people, keeping yourself busy, distracting yourself, being mindful of the urge, being in a relationship, it's basically you just cutting down the branches and the leaves of that tree, and you hope that you are going to make the whole tree die and fall. Because imagine, the branches and the leaves are simply the urges and the problems associated with the urges, such as loneliness, boredom, frustration, stress, anxiety, depression, all of that. But the thing is, what will make the tree fall and die forever is going straight to the root cause and cut down the root completely. So what will happen then? You won't have to worry about the tree growing back, aka the addiction growing back again, or the branches and the leaves growing back again, aka the urges coming back. So let me show you how you can easily do this. Now guys, what is the first myth? This is the myth that everyone believes in, is addiction. They believe that addiction exists. Now let me ask you one very simple question before I show you scientific evidence that addiction is not real. Ask yourself this one question: would you still watch porn if I told you that if you don't watch porn, you are going to get $100 million? Would you just experience a loss of control and a lack of willpower, and you're not going to be able to keep yourself busy and you're just going to fall? What you are going to understand from this question is that it's not that you are addicted, it's not that you cannot control your own body and you have these cravings and urges that goes against your own will. It's more so that you actually prefer watching porn. You actually like watching porn because subconsciously there's some benefits you associate with porn which you are not even aware of, and that's what makes you go back to porn. It's not because of the brain changes, which we are also going to cover later in the video. It's simply because you believe that you like porn subconsciously, and consciously you think, oh, it's just because I'm an addict. Now guys, let's look at this one study they have done. So there's a research in which alcoholics were given a test to gauge how strongly they believed in several common concepts of addiction, such as loss of control or genetic predisposition to alcoholism. It showed that those who believed most strongly in addiction were most likely to relapse following treatments. In fact, this belief system was one of the top predictors of relapses after controlling for hundreds of other factors. Now, what we can see just from this one study, and you can read the rest of it, is that people use the addiction concept that they are addicted as an excuse to do what they like to do, aka alcohol, porn, masturbation, whatever, because they see benefits in alcohol, and because of that they just say, oh, it's because I'm addicted. So what it does, it takes away the responsibility from themselves and they put the responsibility on the fact that they are addicted, and the alcohol being addictive rather than themselves, rather than only the fact that they actually like drinking alcohol internally. You genuinely think that you feel good when you watch porn, that it relieves stress, that it does help you with boredom and loneliness, that it feels good, that it helps with sexuality and all other things. These are all benefits, and you still believe them even though you don't want to watch porn now. Second myth, a lot of people get told this thing about porn and drugs and all of those things, is the brain changes. Now, do I agree that the brain changes? Yes, I do completely agree, okay? But one thing that happens is that the brain changes the same way it changes for any other repetitive habit or skill. So to give you an example now, a taxi driver and someone who watches porn literally have the same changes in the brain. The brain of the taxi driver is gonna change in a similar way, just like for the porn user, just like for the drug user. Now, you might not believe this at first, but let me explain. The taxi driver, what happens is, a certain part of the brain becomes stronger and stronger, and he activates certain parts of the brain, just like you activate certain part of the brain when you watch porn, when you take drugs, all those things. Now, what it does and what most people don't understand is that habits. The taxi driver, now he doesn't feel compelled to just like driving taxi. He doesn't feel forced to drive taxi. He's not feeling withdrawals when he's not driving taxi. Even though his brain changed, what happens and which most people don't understand is that for porn, for drugs, for taxi driving, for learning to play the piano, any other repetitive habit or skills, what happens is it just facilitates the brain to do the behavior again. So the taxi driver, it will be easier for him to drive that taxi again. The porn user, it will be easier for him to go and search porn and go and watch it. Because remember the first time you watched porn, remember at first you had a lot of resistance watching porn. You were like, no man, should I do it or should I not do it? Maybe at first you were like waiting for days before doing it or hours. But what happened? With time, it just became like something that was easier to do. Now you are like, yeah, let me type it in and I will just watch it multiple times a day, because the resistance was removed, because the brain changes in a way that makes it easier for me to watch for next time. But what it doesn't change is, and what most people understand is, it doesn't change the fact that your brain will make you feel like you need to do it again. What makes you feel like you want to do it again and again? It's the benefits you perceive in porn. It's the benefits. Do you think the taxi driver is like, oh man, I feel bad, I feel so strongly addicted to driving taxi? No, he doesn't feel like that, because again, he's going to do it if he sees benefits in doing it. He's going to watch porn if he sees benefits in watching porn. That's it. So essentially what happens, which I'm gonna show you, that the brain changes so you can do that behavior easily. But it doesn't change the fact that you are gonna do the behavior again or not. This is just a choice you make based upon if you think porn is gonna make you happy, it's gonna give you benefit, relieve stress and all of those things or not. So let's look at this. We have the brain here. Here's your brain. It's the normal brain. And then we have the brain on heroin. And then we have the brain on porn. Now, I want you to ask yourself a very simple question. I don't need to show you scientific studies. I can leave some of them in the description below. But why do some people who watch porn for years manage to quit overnight and their brain just changed completely? So what happens is that they don't see any more benefits of watching it, and they see more benefits in not watching it. Simple as that. And I still remember I have talked to one of my friends and I asked him, man, how did you manage to quit almost overnight without discovering NoFap? And you know what he said? He said, for me, well, it wasn't really an addiction. And he was like, I could quit anytime I want, which shows again that the problem is not the brain changes. It's more so the perception on addictions, the perception on porn consumption itself. And also, there has been a study shown which shows that after heavy drugs use, the brain goes back to the normal pretty quickly within a couple of months. So again, it shows that you are good, man. Don't worry about anything. Worrying is just a wasted emotion, because now you have a false perception on addiction, and perception creates your reality. Perception is your beliefs, and your beliefs determines your actions, and your actions determine your results, and your results determines your reality. Now, third myth is the self-image of an addict. Now, this is the worst self-image you can adopt for yourself, which most people in the NoFap space tell you to adopt unconsciously. It's that you are addicted and you cannot do anything about it. Oh man, you have been addicted for too many years, so now it's gonna take a lot of time before you quit. This is all stupid. What you must understand is, once you put yourself in that image of an addict, meaning once you start believing in addiction and that you have this disease because you started watching porn at a very young age and now you cannot do anything about it, what happens is you just give up unconsciously. You literally give up. Once you believe that you are not addicted, that you don't have this addiction, it becomes 10 times easier. And there's a concept called the playground effect. Imagine There's a kid just walking in a park and then he falls in the park on his knee. Now the kid, he's just going to look at his scratch, he will just rub it off and he will continue playing with the other kids. Now imagine the same exact scenario happens and the kid is just doing the exact same thing. He falls on his knee, he bleeds a little bit, but suddenly another adult sees him and he's like, "Oh man, are you okay? You know, it seems like you hurted yourself very bad. Oh man, I'm worried for you." Now what's gonna happen to the kid? He's gonna be extremely worried about it. Now he's gonna be trapped in fear and now he's gonna perceive what just happened as something really bad happening. Now the kid is gonna feel worried about himself, even though physically talking it is nothing. And the same exact thing happens to people that watch porn. You know what happens? They get to the NoFap space, they get told by the recovery institution and the so-called addiction experts, "Oh man, you have been watching 3 to 4 times a day. You are an addict, man. I'm worried about you, man. It's gonna be hard. Addiction is very hard to battle." You see, the same thing. The adult is the NoFap space and the addiction recovery institutions, and you are the kid, and they are telling all of these false images on you. While in reality, if you just thought that, "Man, I'm just watching porn a bit too much, maybe I should cut it down," guess what? Your chances of cutting down will be 10 times higher, because you wouldn't believe that you are just trapped in this recovery thing of, "Oh, I'm trying to recover from addiction, I'm trapped as someone who was addicted." Now guys, if you have listened to this video carefully, you will be able to quit extremely fast. Now if you want to speed up the process and just quit in barely 1 week, go down in the description below and schedule a call with me. We are gonna go over how you can actually quit this yourself, and I will also talk about my coaching process with you. I have had now many students who just quitted in less than 7 days. Some of them never even relapse once. Alright guys, make sure to like this video, leave a comment down below, subscribe, and do book a call down below if that's what you are looking for. And I will see you in the next video. Take care. Assalamu alaikum.